because Ron Hoon is joining me, and we're talking about one of the big stories this morning. It started last night. It started trending late last night
About what
around
time?
8 or 8:30
Okay.
Arizona time, because I remember I was going to bed at 8:30.
Okay.
Wanted to sleep early,
Yep.
and I look at my phone and I see EgyptAir is trending. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I know.
And
When
then-
I first heard it this morning, because I get up at crazy hours in the early morning, I thought, well, why are they talking about that old EgyptAir? And then within like 15 seconds, I realized, gosh, more tragedy for EgyptAir.
Right. And by this morning, they had pretty much confirmed that it had crashed. Last night, it was being reported as a missing plane. And every time, it's one of those things where it's like, missing plane, what does that mean? It just dropped off radar. And I hate to say it, but the minute I heard it was from Paris to Cairo, I automatically just thought terrorism. Because not Cairo, but because Paris specifically is such a target.
I know.
And it's really unfortunate. Again, no, there hasn't been any official confirmation that is the case, but it's a sad situation. We know more than 60 people were aboard this flight.
66 total. And you think about how the Bataclan attack and then the joint attacks at the stadium and at the cafe, 130 people killed on that night. Here's what they are leaning more and more towards: terrorism, and a large number of people killed in this one. And it's as if the people of Paris
It's just sad.
haven't suffered enough, and you don't know. We don't know of the.
And there's also the people of Egypt as
That's
well.
just
I believe
what I
there
was
were
gonna
30
say.
Egyptian nationals
Yeah.
on board.
Oh, did you? Okay, I
think it
wasn't
was
sure how
30
many. So
people
it's
from
about an
Egypt,
even split.
15 people from France, and then people from all sorts of places. There weren't
Right.
any Americans on board. There was one British person on board,
Yeah.
I believe, as far as I can recall from my research that I did this morning.
So they're going to dig into every single passenger on board.
Right.
Was there somebody who was a willing accomplice of whoever the mastermind of this one was?
Right, and I don't know what this means. I saw a tweet, something that said no suspicious people were on board, and I don't even know what that means, because you
Right.
can never really tell
Yeah, I know.
what
gonna take-
suspicious thing there is. And secondly, maybe the person wasn't even on board. Maybe it was someone who worked at the airport. You don't know. We don't know any of this.
I actually think that's more likely. I
Right.
think that if there are holes, it's less in the airport screening process of passengers and more in who's handling the bags and who has access to the aircraft
Right.
besides the flight crew.
So this is an image of an Airbus 320. This is the plane,
Yeah.
or the type of plane that was flying. I do have some maps as well, so let me go ahead and pull up one of those maps of the flight path. Let's see. So you can see that is basically the path, and the crash,
Yep.
it was right around here.
Right about where the S in C is.
Right, because it was
Correct.
near some Greek islands. It
Yep.
had entered the Egyptian airspace. It had been in Egyptian airspace for about 10 miles or so. And
Right.
again, a lot of the information, I'm still continuing to watch the EgyptAir hashtag. Lots of tweets. They're describing it as a mid-air plunge. We're seeing reports now that the Greeks have found life vests. There have been reports that debris has been found, wreckage has been found. The president of France, stating 7 hours ago, information confirms that this plane has crashed.
Yeah.
So-
And the officials with EgyptAir are saying they've found the wreckage.
Right. Wreckage has been found. No official confirmation of fatalities is what EgyptAir is saying. However, at this point, from things I've read, it doesn't seem so much as a rescue operation as it is a search and recovery operation. So,
By the way, I notice as you're starting to go through some of these tweets that people are reacting to Donald Trump's
right.
tweet
I'll go
on
ahead and
this.
pull this up for the viewers.
And it didn't take long for, let's see, 7 hours ago. So about 3 o'clock this morning, our time.
There it is. Looks yet again like another terrorist attack. Airplane departed from Paris. When will we get tough, smart, and vigilant? Great hate and sickness. I mean, yeah, he tweeted that 7-8 hours ago in the middle of the night. or early morning New York time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is sad the way in which the plane crashed based on preliminary information does suggest that it was probably some sort of terrorist incident, some sort of explosive device.
Right.
Not something where it was a mechanical failure and it gradually descended.
Right.
Also, one of the things that people were making note of last night is that there was no emergency call made at all.
Yes, right.
So there was no distress call. No
Sure.
one had been told that there were any, areas of worry on board that plane.
Here's what we know. It made it. It was about 2:45 in the morning, their time, and it made a 90-degree sharp, sudden 90-degree left turn, and then a full 360-degree turn toward the right, indicative of a pilot who's losing control of the aircraft, and then plummeted from 38,000 feet to 15,000 feet, in a matter of whatever the speed of gravity would take it down, just a few minutes. And then at 10,000 feet is where it disappears from the radar, because then you're going below standard elevation. So then from what we understand, the search plane, located a couple of orange items believed to be from the aircraft, really not that far from Egypt. You wonder if in fact it proves to be terrorism. Could it have been a timed device?
Right.
Or was it something that was set to go off by either remote control or by someone who was an accomplice on board? They do a better and better job forensically of getting the answers on these. Remember, there was a flight out of Rio to Paris about, I think it's been about 3 years now, maybe 3 or 4 years. And it took them months and months just to locate the wreckage on the bottom of the Atlantic. And then there were still a lot of question marks. They were trying forever to find the black box and to retrieve it and to get valuable information off of it. The fact that they responded so quickly to this scene shows you that they may be able to piece this one together more quickly than that one. But again, there was another flight that had a Paris connection, the one from Brazil into the capital city of France. I was thinking about this. What prompted me to think about this just in the last couple of days? That Francois Hollande pledged that they would wipe out this threat. And yet, I don't see, maybe there's a lot more going on behind the scenes.
Right, you've heard officials say that there's so many terror attacks that they thwart that we, as the public, don't ever end up hearing about.
Yeah.
I've heard that at least from our own government.
Right. And maybe there is a lot of that going on, but I had the impression that he was trying to literally put together a force of French troops and from other nations that could be sort of like a quick strike force that would go in and, that they would then take more of a leading role in this. I'm not hearing that that's happening.
Right.
Maybe it is, and it's just out of the headlines. But you sort of wonder where things stand in that regard, because if anybody has the moral authority to lead the world in this current fight, it would be the president of France.
And now we're looking at B-roll video of the airport in France.
I wanted to ask you about, you said you had flown into the airport in Cairo.
I have, yeah. Let me go ahead and pull up some exteriors of the Cairo airport. Oops. Yeah, I had flown into the Cairo airport.
Oh, this is it, huh?
In 2008, end of 2008, so 7.5 years ago.
And what were your impressions? Is it a very big airport? Yeah.
I didn't really think, I wasn't concerned for my safety at the time, but also that's November 2008. There weren't really very many threats in Egypt at that point. It was a relatively safe time to go to Egypt. So,
like Sky Harbor, we have 95 gates, I believe. would you say it was sort of the equivalent of a Sky Harbor, which is
Truthfully,
obviously
I
a pretty
don't
big
remember,
airport? Yeah.
but it is Cairo. It's the biggest city in Egypt. It's a major
Yeah.
tourist destination. You fly into Cairo to get to the pyramids of Giza.
Yes,
so
right, sure.
You have to factor that in. I really, truthfully, didn't pay attention to how big the airport was at the time.
Did you have the impression that security was about the same as you would see in Phoenix or New York or LA, or did it have a little bit of a different feel?
I don't remember if this is Egypt specifically or just my experiences in places outside of the U.S. in general, but I do feel like security is a little bit more relaxed outside of the U.S.
Okay.
Personal opinion, I feel like, and maybe it's just little things, like you don't have to take your shoes off when going through TSA,
Okay.
but these are the things I noticed.
Right.
I don't think I had to take my computer out of my laptop bag. Again, most recently I was in Europe last month, in the UK. But one of the things that I do want to, give the UK props for, or at least when I was at Heathrow, is the fact that they didn't have really ridiculously long lines. And I don't know if that's because they have a lot of agents working the gates to get people through quickly or what it is, but I've always thought that those long lines are a perfect terror target. Because you haven't gotten through security yet. If you're in that big crowd and it's going, zigzagging
Right.
back and forth, and there's a
Right.
group of 100 people waiting in line,
Right.
I mean, no one's checking you through security prior to that point. I'm not, those are the things I think about. I think about the fact that this is dangerous. Any area, any group of people congregated is a potential terror target.
Sure.
So, in an ideal situation, even recently here in the U.S., headlines have been made because of the long lines
Right.
regarding TSA and going through security. I think that's something that really needs to be solved ASAP, because that's the thing I really appreciated about the lines in London is that, the check-in line at American Airlines was, it wasn't short, but it wasn't super long. But when I was going through security, I felt like I was at least through the
Moving.
first part of security instantly.
Well, that raises a whole other issue, which is where was the response when the TSA? There are over 40,000 TSA employees. How did it take them, a week or longer to figure out how to shift 40 or 50 people to Chicago O'Hare? They do a good job, and I actually brought this up when I was meeting with, on the air with our Fox reporter, Doug Luzader, today. Everybody in the country saw those images of the bags when the system broke at Sky Harbor. As frustrating as that was for a lot of people,
Right.
it did give you the sense that they pay attention
Right.
and know instantaneously when there's a problem. And if they have to, they'll ship those bags all the way to Tucson. They'll do what they have to make sure every single bag that gets on board. And you just have to trust that the employees that are actually out there on the tarmac then that are loading them, who are sort of the last line of defense, if you want to call it
Right.
that each one of them are honest and
Good people.
upstanding and
Yeah.
good people and wouldn't have any terrorist leanings. I gotta run.
All right, well, I'm going to continue to give you guys coverage of this plane crash. We do have video coming in from Fox National that I'm going to play for you. And if you guys have any thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, you can go ahead and tweet me. Twitter name right there. You can tweet Ron too, but he won't be up here. You
I'll
can
be
just
in a
say hi
meeting.
to him via Twitter. But if you
I'll
want to
talk to
talk
you
about
later.
this situation, tweet me at TommyFox10. And Ron, thanks for hanging.
Thanks, SK.